Now that you have clips on the timeline and you're hopefully feeling pretty good about your rough edit, it's time to start tightening things up. This just means that we're trimming a few frames off of each clip to help things flow better and maybe match up with the beat of the music. We're going to talk about some tools you can use to help tighten things up. We'll even talk about using markers to help line clips up with the music. So let's jump into Adobe Premiere. In the last video, I was able to put together a basic rough edit and get some clips on the timeline. But the problem I ran into was that my music was much longer than the clips that I had put there. So I really need to shorten my song. And there's a really easy way to do that in Premiere using what's called the Remix tool. So to access the Remix tool, just take this tool, the third one down on your toolbar. It's called the Ripple Edit tool, which we'll talk about in a minute. Click and hold on it, and then go down to the Remix tool. And all I have to do is click and drag my song to my desired length. So I could go shorter or longer depending on my needs. So I'm going to drag this down to about the 20-second mark. And what it does is it analyzes the song and then edits the song to be the desired length. And it's pretty great because it's seamless and you'll never really hear where those edit points are. So now that I have shortened my music, I have the problem of having clips that are longer than the song. So let's look at a couple of tools that we can use to help shorten things or tighten them to match up better with the music. One thing that you can do to make editing this type of video a lot easier is use markers. Now there's a lot of uses for markers, but the reason I'm going to use it right now is to mark where I want there to be an edit point, which is where the beats are in the song. So if I scrub through and I listen for where the music changes, and I can get a lot more specific if I use the left and right arrows on the keyboard, and I'm just going to listen for where that beat changes. And then once I have a place where I want to add a marker, just hit the letter M on the keyboard, and you'll notice it adds this green marker right there. Then I'm going to scrub forward some more. And I'm going to add another marker. Now the next thing is to shorten some of these clips. So the first tool is just the selection tool, or the letter V on the keyboard. And if I hover over this edit point, you'll notice that this red cursor will change directions depending on which side of that edit point I'm on. So if I just click and drag this down to one of those markers, you'll notice that it leaves this big gap here. So either I could select all these clips and drag them down, or I can just select the gap and hit delete, and it moves everything down with it. However, there's another tool that makes that process a lot easier. So I'm going to undo that, and let's look at the Ripple Edit tool. So remember we got the Remix tool earlier, so I'm going to click and hold on that and select the Ripple Edit tool, or it's the letter B on your keyboard. You'll notice that the cursor looks the same as the one for the selection tool, except this one's yellow. So if I click and I drag this clip down to that point, notice how it slides everything else down with it. This is a great tool to help trim a lot of your clips down, but if you have things that are timed up later on in the timeline, just be careful because it could throw your timing off. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Ripple Edit tool to change the length of some of these clips. All right, let's take a look and see what this looks like. Okay, so I like where that's going. I'd probably add some more markers and then keep using the Ripple Edit tool to match things up. Notice as I've tightened down the clips on the timeline, I went from having more video than audio to now having more audio than video. This is where building a rough edit and tightening kind of go together. It's totally normal to add some clips to the timeline, tighten them up, then add more clips to the timeline, tighten things up some more, and so on. So let's look at a few more tools. Now, another tool I can use is what's called the Slip tool. And the Slip tool is really cool because what it allows me to do is change what I'm seeing in the clip without changing its length. So if I just click and hold over the middle of a clip and start dragging, you'll notice how there's a few different windows in the program monitor. The main two are the bottom left and the bottom right. This is basically showing me my in point and my out point of the clip. And so as I click and drag, all it's doing is it's changing what I'm seeing inside of that clip. So I can really fine tune what I'm seeing. So that looks pretty good. And I can do that on a few other clips. Let's take this baseball clip, for example. If I want to show right before he hits the ball, I'm going to click and drag until right before he swings the bat. So that looks pretty good. Another tool you can use is called the blade tool, or the letter C on the keyboard. So for this, I'm going to zoom into my timeline just a little bit more. And the nice thing about the blade tool is that it allows me to take a single clip and cut it into multiple clips. So take this last clip, for example, looks a little long, so maybe I can take this and just click where I want it to be another clip, and now I've separated that into two. So either I can delete part, or maybe I'm trying some effect where the first half is one look and the last half is another look. What a lot of people like to do is put a clip on the timeline in its entirety, then use the blade tool to just cut it up. I wouldn't recommend doing this as it can be slower and a lot more tedious. So to continue tightening your sequence, use the selection tool, ripple edit tool, slip tool, and any other tool you discover to really fine-tune each clip. Using markers can also help cut to the beat. In the next video, we're going to go over adding effects to your clips to enhance the look and the feel of what we're seeing. See you there.